Hi, Tom Simmons coming to you from my home in Chester, Vermont, and today's lesson is on market demand. And one of the obstacles we're going to have to get over right from the start is that people commonly use the term demand, and newscasters will use it. And how it's used in common language is not how that term is used among economists. So, for instance, you may hear a newscaster say something such as, the price of bananas increased this week, so demand has fallen. That actually is an incorrect statement. It's not technically correct. So one of the things we want to start with this lesson is to go over to an economist, what do these terms mean? Because they really have ramifications for all the economic theory that's going to follow. So we want to make sure we get this down. In economics, there are two different concepts, and that is a change in quantity demanded versus a change in demand itself. They are actually two different concepts, and we're going to spend a lot of time in this video delineating the differences between them. The second is to understand that demand is not, when we speak of consumer demand, this is not what people have purchased in stores. Demand is what people wish to purchase at given prices. It's not always what they actually do purchase. I'll give you a good example. You may want to go on a vacation somewhere and you want to book a particular hotel. You have a demand for rooms at this hotel in this location, but they're booked. So there is demand, but it doesn't necessarily result in an executed sale. And that happens anytime you go to the store looking for something, you have demand for it, but it's not on the shelf. And the third point we want to get nailed down from the get-go is that market demand is the demand of the sum of all of the consumers in the marketplace. So for instance, let's make a little universe where coffee is $1 a cup, and there are 3 consumers in this entire marketplace. Mary, Harry, and Joe. Mary would like to buy 2 cups of coffee at $1. Harry would like to buy 2 cups of coffee at $1. And Joe would like to buy 2 cups of coffee at $1. The market demand is not 2, it's 6. It is adding up the individual demands of all of the consumers in the marketplace. And sometimes students get hung up thinking, well, I wouldn't change my buying patterns if this happened or that happened. Or, well, I wouldn't do anything different. Or I would do something totally opposite. In the grand scheme of events, when we're looking at market demand and we're looking at the actions of all of the consumers in the marketplace, small idiosyncrasies kind of get drowned out by the whole. You may not change your buying habits at all if a price goes up or down, but in the grand scheme of things, that price change will have an effect in the market. So we're looking at all of the consumers in a particular marketplace, kind of standing back, bird's eye view, and looking down to see what would happen. So, I explained in my last lesson how we, as an economist, we want to use positive data. We want to look at actual numbers to uncover patterns of human behavior. And one of the patterns that has existed for as long as economists have been studying this is that there is a relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded of that good. It's very, very simple. You know that if you go into the supermarket and maybe you're expecting to buy a few oranges for something you're making at home, and there's a sale on them, you'd be more likely to purchase more of them because of this relationship between price and quantity demanded. On the other hand, if you went into the supermarket and the prices were much higher than you expected, you might buy fewer of them or none at all. So we have this long-standing relationship between price and quantity demanded. When prices increase, quantity demanded falls. When prices decrease, quantity demanded increases. And that's precisely why when you go into a store and they're looking to get rid of something that's been on the shelf too long, what do? They put it on sale. Because even though, again, you as an individual may or may not buy any different quantities of this, overall, consumers will buy more at a lower price. We sum this relationship up in something called the law of demand, which is a very long run-on sentence that English teachers will hate. But let me give you this long sentence, and then we'll break it down bit by bit. The law of demand states that the quantity demanded of a particular good or service by those willing and able to buy it at a given point in time increases as price decreases and decreases as price increases, ceteris paribus. I told you, it was a very long sentence. Let's break it down. First of all, the beginning and the end sum it up. The quantity demanded of a good will increase as the price decreases, and vice versa. But then there's all these little parentheticals in the middle of the sentence. So it's the quantity demanded of a particular good or service. And that means that, Raisin Bran is not Cheerios. It means that even if you have a particular brand of milk, particular brand, particular style, particular weight, it actually in the consumer's mind may be different whether it's in a convenience store or a supermarket, because the product, it's part of that product itself is not just the physical milk in the container, but it's also the convenience of where you're buying it. So if you are running home, let's say, from work, and you know you need to pick up milk, and you're just not willing to battle with a huge supermarket with a large lot full of cars, and you're hitting a convenience store on the way home, yes, you might purchase milk at a higher price at that convenience store because that specific product is more than just the packaging and what's in it. So for that reason, and a lot of times people object to the concept of the law of demand, saying, well, I just don't go in and buy the cheapest thing. No, of course not. Maybe you're going to a garden store and there's 3 or 4 different varieties of rakes, and you really need one for your garden. And you buy a more expensive one instead of the cheapo one. Well, you're not increasing the quantity you want of the rake because it's a higher price. In your mind, that pricier rake is a higher quality rake than the cheap one. It is a different product. So when we're talking about this price-quantity relationship, we're talking about very specific goods, not generic goods. So the quantity demanded of a particular good or service by those willing and able to buy it. Again, we're looking at reality. This is all based on observed, objective behavior, not people's wish lists, at a particular point in time. We have to limit this relationship because things change over time. Right now I have 4 cats. So I have a certain demand for cat food. Well, if next month or a year from now I end up with a fifth cat, that's going to change my demand. It's going to change my quantity demanded for the amount of cat food that I purchase. So whenever we talk about the law of supply and demand as it relates to a particular good, we're talking about a limited time frame. Certainly your demand for rock salt is going to change in February and then again in July, let's say. So yes, there's this inverse relationship between price and quantity. As the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. With these parentheses, I'm really able to do it. I really want to do it. It's a I'm looking at a particular product. It's a given period of time. Ceteris paribus, and ceteris paribus is the economist's way of saying everything else being constant, because we know things happen. If all of a sudden there's a prediction that a huge blizzard is on the way, or that a hurricane is on its way, you know that consumers' demand for goods changes because of what they're thinking is going to happen. So everything else remaining constant, stores aren't burning down, there's not strikes that's preventing things from moving in the economy, you're going to have this relationship. And with this relationship, again, we're always looking at price and quantity demanded. So when price changes, we're looking at the quantity demand changing. Now, there are other reasons why people might purchase more or less of a good, completely unrelated to a price change. And these are called the determinants of demand. And there's any number of them. Some of the most common determinants of demand, reasons you would buy more or less of something, and it's unrelated to a change in price. It could be a seasonal item. There are certain things you buy for holidays or for certain seasons, and you buy more of it, and it's completely unrelated to a change in price. So for instance, in the market as a whole, people buy more turkeys in November for Thanksgiving, not because they dropped the price, but because there's a seasonal shift in consumer expectations. I just mentioned rock salt. It would be the same thing, using rock salt in the winter. It could be demand for avocados at Cinco de Mayo and or the Super Bowl. People want to make guacamole dip. So there's this increase in demand to purchase these goods, unrelated to a change in price. The price could be exactly the same. In fact, the price could even be higher, but they demand more of the good. A change in consumer tastes will also affect this. If there's a news report about an outbreak of some illness in leafy greens, in lettuce, throughout supermarkets in the U.S., it is likely that consumers will choose to purchase and want to purchase fewer of those until they're sure it's that the panic or the illness has passed. That's not because the store increased price. It's because a change in consumer tastes. Consumer expectations work the same way. If consumers believe that it's going to be hard to get, let's say, avocados next month for whatever reason, weather reports, import tariffs, government action, if they think it's going to be harder to get avocados soon, they may buy more now. So they're increasing their consumption not because of a change in price, but because of their expectations of what's going to happen in the future. You may also change the number of goods you wish to purchase based on a change in your income. If your personal income increases, you have more disposable income, you buy more things. It's pretty basic. And most goods are what we call normal goods, meaning that if your income increases, you buy more of it. You indulge yourself. If your income decreases, you may pull back on those extras that you've been buying in order to make sure that ends meet. There are some goods that are considered, that are not normal goods. We call them inferior goods. And that means that when your income drops, you actually buy more of them. So if you were used to having a full-time income and food was never really a problem, let's say, and your income drops severely, or you lose your job, and now you're really pinching pennies, your demand for less expensive foods like mac and cheese in a box may actually increase. So now if you think on a societal basis, if we had a depression, if we had a time when many people were out of work, many people would shift their purchases from more expensive meats in the supermarket to lower priced items. So those would be called inferior goods because your income drops, you buy more of them. As your income increases, you'll actually buy less of them as you switch to higher priced goods. You may also change your desire to buy a particular good, not because the price of that good has changed, but because the price of a substitute good has changed. So maybe you always buy Skippy peanut butter. You're a Skippy family, and that's what you always buy. And you go into the supermarket, and the price has not changed. So according to the general law of demand, there would be no change in the number purchased. However, a competing brand, maybe Jif, cuts their prices way down. It's like 1/3 of what it normally is. It's such a deal. You switch and buy the Jif. Not because the price of the Skippy has changed, but because a substitute, something you can use instead, changes. And it doesn't even have to be the same food. You may go to the deli counter because you would like to get, you're going to get some ham, a pound of ham to make lunches through the week. And the roast beef is on a really good sale. You may switch and buy the roast beef, not because the price of ham has changed, but because the roast beef did. And you also may engage in that type of behavior when the price of a complementary good has changed. And complementary goods are goods that you buy together. So if you were thinking you're going to have bagels and cream cheese for breakfasts, and you're going to stock up on both. And you always buy bagels, always buy cream cheese. And you go to the store and the price of cream cheese has increased dramatically. Well, you may say, I'm not buying the cream cheese. You may also say, I'm not buying the bagels. I'm going to switch to something else for breakfast. So the bagel people haven't raised their prices at all. But all of a sudden, the consumer's desire to purchase it falls because of changes going on with a complementary good, something you buy with it. So let me wrap this up by putting it succinctly. If consumers change the number of goods they want to buy because price has changed, that is called a change in quantity demanded. The price changed first, and consumers responded to the price change. If consumers change the number of goods they wish to purchase for any other reason They changed their tastes or expectations. A movie star promoted it. It's a seasonal item. Their income has changed. Any changes in these determinants of demand, if they change the number of goods they want for any of these reasons, this is called a change in demand itself. The difference is important because in the first case, price changed, consumers reacted to it. In the second case, with a change in demand, consumers react first. And because they've chosen to want more of a good or less of a good, based on any of these reasons, prices may change. Suppliers may change prices in the marketplace to react to that. But who is reacting to who? And what event is happening first is really important to understand the greater economy as to what's happening. Are consumers buying more, or are they pulling back in response to issues beyond the supplier's controls? Or are they reacting to price, which is set by suppliers? So this has been an introduction into demand. The next video that we're going to look at for macroeconomics, we would be looking at supply. These are two completely separate forces. And then we're going to look at what happens when these two forces clash in the marketplace.